The biggest game in Gold Coast Suns history, prime time Friday night footy on the Gold Coast, the first of its kind against the ladder leading Collingwood Magpies, who so far this season have looked almost unstoppable. And what did the Gold Coast Suns did? They not only won, they won in a genuine thriller. And before we start, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. So many breakdown videos. I love talking footy. You love watching footy, clearly. So please feel free to subscribe. Let's get into it. Straight from the first bounce, the Gold Coast Suns were winning contests. They were winning clearance. But the issue is every time they went forward, this is what was happening early on. We saw Darcy Moore be extremely proactive in his positioning. Ben King was caught behind. Darcy Moore was taking intercept marks. What that meant was, even though Gold Coast was so dominant around the contest, around the congestion, able to win the football in the phone booth, in the phone box, every time they went forward, it looked like they were getting thwarted by the Collingwood structure, by the Collingwood system. It was this early system that was forcing Gold Coast to take these long kicks into packs up the line. The sort of style that they don't want to play, but the sort of style that Collingwood absolutely want them to play. And when Collingwood were able to put this pressure on, so forcing John Noble into this long handball, allowing Jack Crisp to come over and put the pressure on the Gold Coast Suns right here, it was forcing them into these long kicks up the line where they were so predictable, so easy to mark. And the Collingwood defense, it looked like it was on from the very start. But if you think the Collingwood defense was on fire early, I've got something to show you. Because the real defensive masterclass last night was from the Gold Coast Suns. We understand how good Collingwood are if you give them an inch of space, and to shut down their transition game, especially their ability to just smash you off turnover. You have to cut off all of their options. You have to close all of their space very, very quickly. And that's what the Gold Coast Suns were able to do from the start of the game. So as soon as they turn this football over in their defensive half, which is usually where we see Collingwood turn this football over and transition straight into a score, the ability for the Gold Coast Suns here, pressure on the ball handler, pressure on the ball carrier straight away. And all you're doing here is forcing them into one side of the ground. And all of the pressure on the disposals leading up to Crisp here, plus the Noah Anderson pressure, only forces Jack Crisp to be able to kick to one option and one option only. And it's in the position where his forward is not in the prime position to take this mark. And Dan Riola is able to intercept the footy. If you've watched Gold Coast this year, they like to play this high handball, high transition. They really like to lengthen the ground. And when we talk about lengthening the ground, we mean spreading vertically. And what that does is it forces massive gaps between your players and forces the defenders to cover so much ground. This is what that looks like exactly. Dan Riola is going to get this football in the defensive 50. But look at how quickly the Gold Coast Suns spread vertically to create this overlap, to create the space. So bang, we're not spreading wide. Otherwise you would see these two players who were started in the defensive 50 spread into the middle of the ground. Instead, we're spreading vertically. And what that does is it forces it forces the Collingwood defenders to guard so much space either in front or behind them. And that's how you get these sort of space gaps between your players. So he went vertical, and that dragged Jack Crisp out of the situation where he can't impact Joel Jeffrey here with the football. And then you just rely on winning contests up the ground, and you have to do that against Collingwood because their defensive system is so good. You do have to rely on winning some contests right here. So you put enough pressure on Darcy Moore to force the drop mark, and then Flanders is able to go forward. And again, you're spreading long. So that's why you have Ben King in this very favourable one-on-one matchup inside the forward 50. But they don't just spread long, they also spread wide, which is what makes their transition game so good. And even against a transition defensive system like Collingwood have, which is by far the best in the league, they're able to create so many options through their ball use, through their spread, where they can go through the middle of the ground. The Gold Coast's ability to just create this space, but also use the space. So you could have gone to Matt Rowell in front of you as a forward handball and then gone to Tuke Miller through the middle of the ground. So we'll see these defensive systems like here, where Collingwood are in lockstep, and that is usually a really good thing through the middle of the ground. But the quick ball use and the accurate ball use by John Noble here to get the ball to the outside, so spreading wide by Gold Coast and by John Noble, is extremely good. Bypass Collingwood's defensive setup up the line and through the middle of the ground by going around it and using really quick but really effective ball use. And now you have free players inside your forward 50. And to beat this Collingwood defensive system, you're going to have to win some critical contests. So Jed Walter here, just able to put enough pressure on the ball to force Jack Crisp to make a slight fumble, and then it's pressure on the football, pressure on the football, pressure on the football, and now you get to the outside runners in players like Noah Anderson. But this is a beautiful kick. So he's looking into the middle of the ground, and he realises that there's no option, but also he realises that Collingwood's defence is really set up well here with Darcy Moore. So what he does is he just kicks a grubber over the top of the next line of defenders. And what that does is puts the ball into free fall. It puts the ball on an awkward situation where Ben Long has a chance to win a 1v3. If this ball goes up in the air from Noah Anderson, it allows time for Darcy Moore to come back and cover. And it also allows time for Braden Maynard to make a spoil. And now Collingwood have players at ground level. They have an outnumber. But when you kick a grubber like Noah Anderson does, it gives Ben Long a chance to actually win this contest. And he does. And that's when you can get your overlap run. So when you want to beat Collingwood's defensive system, you have to run really hard, like Bailey Humphrey has done here, like Touk Miller, like Ben Long. But you've also got to win critical contests. And when you win 2 of those in a row, oftentimes you're able to get out the back of the Collingwood defensive structure. At this point at halftime, when Collingwood still haven't kicked a goal, you sort of started to think, are they going to be able to get back into this? How are they going to get back into this? Because they can't move the football and they can't really stop Gold Coast from moving the football at the moment. And that's where the Dacos boys and that's where players like Scott Pendlebury came into the fold. And that's realistically how they got back into this game. And because we've seen how high pressure around these contests were, the ability for Dacos here to deal with the pressure, to see 3-4 Gold Coast Suns jerseys in front of him and still make this sort of kick on the outside of the boot, that is ridiculous. But those sort of plays were the only way that Collingwood could get back into this game at all. Again here, it's just poise and composure in the middle of the contest when the heat is at its hottest. So Nick and Josh Dacos here are going to link up, but it was their ability to be pretty much the only Collingwood players who could be clean with the football. So bang, we got a clean pickup from Nick Dacos, and then we got a clean pick-up from Josh Dacos to get the ball moving forward. And that's what they had to do. They had to be so clean, so composed, so calm under the pressure because Gold Coast pressure was so good. But it was plays like this that opened up the game for Collingwood. So for the entire game, we saw how sound the Gold Coast Suns defensive system was against Collingwood's transition. So the only way to combat that is to change the angle, to take the game on in a little bit of a different way. So Josh Dacos gets the footy here, and this is a handball receive. Usually we're going up the line, usually we're going through the middle. Instead, Josh Dacos is completely changing the angles here. So he's looking off all of these players and completely switching to the other side of the ground. And you need to be a 1, an extremely good decision maker, and 2, an extremely good kick to hit that sort of target. But that is what opens up the game for Collingwood. So Josh Dacos' composure and poise and decision-making ability and then kicking ability and kicking execution to get the football to the other side of the ground is the only reason that we see them be able to go forward with any sort of structure, with any sort of danger. Gold Coast have really done nothing wrong. They haven't changed a whole lot with their pressure game. It's more just on Collingwood's ability to be more poised with the football than they were early on in the game. So again, we're going to get a spilled ball here. The pressure here on side bottom is still insane, and the pressure when Pendles receives the football, 3 Gold Coast Suns standing in his way, but his ability to be composed with the football, to look off every single one of them right here, be composed, not go to the easy option over here where Gold Coast do have the numbers, where the pressure is. Take the pressure on, go back to the inside where the Gold Coast defenders are, and now you get a really good shot on goal, and Josh Dacos could go back and continue in his just last quarter, just flurry of brilliance. Go back, and Collingwood are back in the game. I know this is a lot of Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos and Scott Pendlebury glaze, as the kids would call it right now, but this is what got them back in the game. It was pretty much those 3 ability to just use the football with some poise, with some composure, to be calm under the pressure. Gold Coast has got the outnumber around this contest, but again, it's his ability to deal with the pressure here, to be composed, to be calm in this contest right now, and that's what opens the game up, because once you can beat the initial pressure, now you can get to your outside runners, now you can get to the open side of the ground, and now you can go inside forward 50. It's essentially just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, plus some just genuine individual brilliance here from Josh Dacos. I'm not going to show every single goal or every single clearance or every single thing that Josh Dacos did, but we obviously all saw how good he was, how electric he was, how important he was to the Collingwood comeback in this last quarter. We saw Collingwood take the lead, we saw Gold Coast take it back, and they had some seriously good key moments. And if we're talking about big moments, there is no bigger moment than the Gold Coast Suns captain, probably the inaugural captain to lead the Gold Coast Suns to the finals this year, kicking one of the all-time goals from this season, given the moment, given the situation, given the game, given the build-up, given what has happened previously in this game. This is a goal that will be written into the Suns' history, I guarantee it. So the far side of the centre circle here is the space side. So Matt Rowell and Scott Pendlebury here are just going to wrestle. So neither of them are going to be able to cover this side of the ground. So it becomes a foot race between Nick Dacos and Noah Anderson, you would think. But instead, Collingwood have been doing this thing where Nick Dacos actually comes to this side of the centre circle and the person behind the umpire runs to there. And the reason they do that is if Nick Dacos' opponent comes with him to this side of the centre circle, Now the Collingwood player set up behind the umpire has a free run to all of this space. And now they have almost 3/4 of the centre circle to themselves. And if Darcy Cameron or Mason Cox can tap it down into this area, this player right here who's running through has so much space, so much time to get out of this centre circle and go into the forward 50. The issue with that plan is if the player here in Noah Anderson doesn't follow Nick Dacos, now it becomes Josh Dacos's problem to deal with the run of Noah Anderson going to that side, because if Jared Witts wins this hit out, or if Darcy Cameron's hit out is just into the wrong spot, and Nick Dacos is running to here, now Josh Dacos is responsible for Noah Anderson running to the far side, and that's exactly what we're going to see play out. So Nick Dacos comes to here. Josh's problem is to go to this side of the ground. The two rucks wrestle, and the ball spills to the back, and Josh Dacos is just half a step behind. He slips over. Noah Anderson's able to come out the front of stoppage. Now you have a situation where the halfback is forced to come up and apply the pressure on Noah Anderson. He doesn't quite get it. Well is able to get the overlap run, and now Noah Anderson is inside forward 50 by himself. He goes back. That is a captain's goal. That is a club-changing goal. That is some serious Nuffy breakdown. And to be completely honest, it wasn't the Gold Coast Suns' offensive ability late in this last quarter. It was actually their defensive moments that saved the game, that won them this game. So look at the work here from Matty Rowell. I just want you to see this sort of game-breaking tackle. Jack Crisp gets this ball at pace, at speed, and if he can break this Matt Rowell tackle, he is inside forward 50 with pace, with momentum, and he's probably going to go forward and find a target or kick a goal. But the ability and the strength of Matt Rowell here to fully chest tackle Jack Crisp, to stop his momentum, to stop his run, get a holding the ball free kick, that is unbelievable. And again here we're talking about a game-breaking tackle. So Lachie Sullivan straight through the front of this stoppage. He breaks 2 tackles, but the ability for Will Power to stick this tackle right at the very end here doesn't allow Sullivan to go forward and kick this goal and put the Collingwood Magpies back in front. 2 minutes left, Collingwood going forward with some momentum. Isaac Quaynor here on the run. He's able to get a deep penetrating kick to what should be, and it is. Look at the space that Jamie Elliott here has on Bodie Yulin, but Mac Andrews' ability to just get a fist on this football, to spoil the football, get a stop play, that is unbelievable. And again, this is probably the final moment in the game. This is the last chance that Collingwood has. 37 seconds left, 6 points down. Braden Maynard goes straight away up the line to a contest. And if Collingwood's able to win this contest, they're able to get another quality inside forward 50 from their forward half, from their forward flank. But instead, it's the defensive ability of Dan Rioli here to just put the spoil on, get the ball back to a stop play, allow your midfield to set up. That is wonderful. But if you like these sort of videos where we're breaking down some footy, please feel free to subscribe, stick around. And these are the sort of things that we want to see as a footy fans. And genuinely great games of footy. And I want to see you stick around here. So subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.